just government of the people. We beseech you to behold with the abundant favor as your servants, whom you have been pleased to call to the performance of important trusts in this republic. Let your blessings descend upon us here assembled, and grant that we treat and consider all matters that shall come under our deliberation in so just and faithful a manner as to promote your honor and glory, and to advance the peace, prosperity, and welfare of our country and of those whose interests you have committed to our charge. Amen. Honorable members, I direct that we ring the bell for quorum for 10 minutes. We have Order. Order, members. Order. Order, members. Good. We now have the requisite quorum to transact business. I direct that we commence the work of Parliament.
Order number 1, administration of oath. Order number 2, communication from the chair.
Honorable members, I direct that we move to the next business. We will return for the convenience of the House. I direct that we move on, but when we reach business number, we will consider communication. There will be communication from the chair after we deal with order number 7.
Order number 3, messages. Order number 4, petitions. Order number 5, papers. Order number 6, notices of motion. Order number 7, questions and statements.
The Honorable Mose, Shadrach Mose, member for Kitutu Church, Masaba.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I wish to make a statement of condolences on the demise of the late Samwell Montari Mangare. Honorable Speaker, I wish to make a statement regarding the demise of Honorable Samwell Montari Mangare, former Member of Parliament of Kitutu Masaba constituency. The late Honorable Samwell Montari Mangare passed on last week on the 18th of March 2021 while he undergoing treatment in Nairobi. Honorable Speaker, the late Samwell Montari Mangare was born in 1942 at Gekano, formerly Bonyamondo 1, Gekano Sub-Location, Manga Sub-County, Nyamira County. Honorable Speaker, in 1974, the late Samwell Montari Mangare tried his hand in elective politics when he contested for the Kitutu East parliamentary seat. He came in second to the late Honorable George Anyona. In 1977, he contested for the parliamentary seat during a by-election when the seat fell vacant following the arrest and the detention of the late Honorable George Moseti Anyona. Honorable Speaker, Honorable Samwell Mangare emerged victorious and served as the Honorable Member of Parliament for Kitutu East from 1977 to 1979. The late Honorable Samwell Montari Mangare was a man of the people and a champion for the rights of his constituents. He was directly involved in many community development projects, most of which he initiated and chaired the committees and served with zeal and purpose. I wish, on behalf of the National Assembly, the people of Kitutu Masaba constituency, and indeed on my own behalf and on behalf of my family, convey our sincere condolences to his family, friends, and the people of the large Anyamira County for this great loss. May his soul rest in eternal peace. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
The Honorable Amalwa, you wish to make a comment on that? Proceed.
Speaker, Mr. Speaker, on behalf of my family and the great people of Community Constituency and Trans Nzoia County at large, want to send a message of condolence to the family of the late Honorable Samwell Montari. Honorable Samwell Montari will be buried on Friday, Mr. Speaker, in Trans Nzoia County. Honorable Montari has been the chairman of the Catholic Parish Church in Chabarus. And Mr. Speaker, the late honorable member had donated 5 acres of land to the church. And I was there during the opening of that church by His Lordship Bishop Maurice Anthony Crowley. As a Catholic family, as the people of Great Trans Nzoia County, we've lost a dear person. His sons have been my very good friends. One, we taught with him when I was teaching at the Strathmore University, and we prayed with Almighty God to give his family strength and comfort at this difficult time. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Very well. The Honorable Mogaka Kemusi, member for West Mugirango.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I also wish to send my condolences to the family of Honorable Samuel Montari Mangare, who passed on last week, Honorable Speaker. On behalf of my family and the people of West Mugrango, we send condolences to the family. Honorable Speaker, Honorable Montari served as a member of parliament in this house from the year 1977 to the year 1979. After that, Honorable Speaker, he has gone ahead and served in various capacities. At one time, he was a director in ICDC. He was also an accomplished teacher, besides being long-term serving chairman of Cherangani constituency, CDF, as well as chairman of several Catholic churches within Cherangani constituency in Trans Nzoia. Honorable Speaker, during his time as a member of parliament, it's quite recognized by his constituents that that is the time that the 10 Kitutu East constituency rose in terms of development. It is during his time that we saw the establishment of Nyambaria High School, which is a national school. He also participated in various development activities, Honorable Speaker, during his time, owing to the fact that by then there were no CDF funds. But he went out of his way to solicit for funds to develop the then Kitutu East constituency. I therefore take this opportunity, Honorable Speaker, to send my sincere condolences to his family, and may God rest his soul in eternal peace. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
The Honorable Ndindi Nyoro, do you want to comment on this?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I also rise to convey my sincere condolences to the family of the late Member of Parliament for Kitutu Masamba, Honorable Samwell. And Mr. Speaker, even having perused his history and even gotten it from the current member, it is very evident that when you give yourself to service of the people, and even when you give yourself to serving God, it is never in vain. And I say so because we have heard even from the previous speakers that he actually donated his private land for use of the church, which is basically public and sacred. And Mr. Speaker, my own grandfather was actually a canon of a church. And I know there are so many members in this house who are actually part of the blessing of the second, third, fourth generations of our parents. And therefore, it's a challenge even to us as members, as politicians, whatever we do in terms of our core business of development, it is also good to be soft and engage in other social activities, and especially in helping the church, because it shapes the way the communities behave. And having said that, Mr. Speaker, I again condole with the family and condole with the great people of Kitutu Masaba. And may his soul rest in peace.
The Honorable Momanyi Mongina, member for Nyamira.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for granting me this opportunity so that I can also eulogize the death of a statesman, Honorable Samwell Montari Mangare, who was a member of parliament in Kitutu East constituency. During the time I was in primary, but we could be able to hear the great things that Honorable Mangare was doing. He is a neighbor at home at Nyamira County, and I know the people of Nyamira are so heartened because of the death of Honorable Mangare. I want to take this opportunity to send my heartfelt condolences to the family and the neighbors from home, and I want to wish them well as they mourn their loved one. This is a man who loved God. He is among those people who inspired many to take up Christianity in our local community. We want to urge everybody to emulate the way Honorable Mangare lived. May his soul rest in eternal peace.
Very well. The Honorable Nyego Osoro, member for South Mugirango.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I equally rise to pass my heartfelt condolences to the family of Honorable Sam Montari, who served at the time. Of course, I wasn't born then, and I've read, but I've read his story, and I've engaged the people of Nyamira. And from the history of Omogusi people, many, of course, might not be aware, the Kitutu people are the cornerstone of Omogusi, like the larger clan of the Kitutu. We call it the elephant stomach, because the larger, all the clans in Gusii are believed to have emanated from the elephant stomach, which is the Kitutu people. And from the history that we've read about the Honorable Sam, it's clear that he served very well, diligently to his people in the late 70s, and later on, of course, served in various capacities because of his experience. And we actually want to thank God because he's passed on at his old age, having served his people diligently. So on behalf of the people of the South Mugirango constituency and the larger Kisii County, we wish to pass our heartfelt condolences to the people of Kitutu. Then it was called the Kitutu East. It was a large, large area. But sadly to date, Kitutu East was only renamed Kitutu Masaba. And in terms of the land capacity and in terms of the largeness, it still remains the same. It is not, they've not gotten an opportunity to be divided so that it can be able to have, 2 or 3 members of parliament. It is the only constituency with over 200,000 registered voters and still remains so to date. It becomes very difficult even for members of parliament to serve more than 2 terms because they're not able to reach different areas. It's actually one of the reasons that some of us were very keen and pushed, we were pushing so hardly on even the proposals that were being brought, or that have been brought to this house about the BBI and stuff, that if it's not divided, then we are not in it. But having said that, Honorable Speaker, we pass our condolences to the people of Kitutu Masaba. Thank you, sir.
The Honorable Ogutu Abel, member for Bomachogi.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me the opportunity to condole. A man who might be little known to many of us because of the time he served this parliament, but also because of the way he decided to run his life after politics. The late Montari happens to be my neighbor in Trans Nzoia, and I've known him as a selfless man. Other than the donation of land for the Catholic Church, Montari also offered to give us land where we built the buying center, the second buying center in Cherangani Tea Factory. I want to say that when I look back about the life of this man, I think it reminds me that it's not the riches that one possesses which matters. It's the heart to give and serve the people, which is also very important. After his ambition in politics, Montari retired to the village in Istatunga location, where he tirelessly served the community as a church leader, as one of the many members of the many committees for development in Cherangani. And I want to say that his way of life reminds me of how best you can leave a legacy behind, without necessarily doing the big things, doing the small things which remain with the people that come after you. Mr. Speaker, with those few remarks, on behalf of myself, the people of Machoka Borabu, and also on behalf of the people of Statunga location where me and Montari live, I want to pass my condolences and pray for the family, and also pray for many leaders that as we serve, we have the opportunity to serve, let us serve people tirelessly. It's not how much we possess, but how much we are committed to share with others. May his soul rest in eternal peace.
Honorable members, I see a lot of interest in this, but you know the kind of business that we have facing us. I will allow maybe two more on this particular aspect. The first one will be the Honorable Waweru Kiari, member for Dagoretti South.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. However, I was rising to send my message of condolence to the family of the late honorable member, and with your permission, Mr. Speaker, I'll go ahead and do that. Mr. Speaker, I'm glad for this opportunity to send my message of condolence to the family of the late Honorable Samwell Montari. It is interesting, Mr. Speaker, that our records are not as clear as they should be. It does not matter that the late Honorable Samwell only served for 2 years, from 1977 to 1979. The passing of this honorable member reminds us that, as Shakespeare said, this world is a stage, that each one of us will get onto this stage, do their performance, and when it is time to go, they will go. So what we can do as a House, Mr. Speaker, is to actually put up a hall of fame. If we will not be able to put up a hall of fame, I think it will be in order for us to at least have a wall of fame to honor all those members of parliament who have served in this House, Mr. Speaker. As you would understand, out of the many of the 12 terms that people have served in this House, I'm sure we are not more than 3,000 Kenyans who have had the opportunity to serve in this House. I believe that these honorable Kenyans who have had the opportunity to serve their people in this House can be immortalized somewhere, Mr. Speaker. And if it does not find a place in the precincts of Parliament, I believe that the new Heroes Center that we are building in Nairobi on Langata Road can be an amazing place where we can immortalize all living and passed on members of this House who have had opportunity to serve in their time. Mr. Speaker, I'll take just 1 minute to also condole with the family of an amazing thespian in this country who only passed on yesterday, an amazing, intelligent lady who has dedicated her life to serving Kenyans through the creative industry, the late Lorna Irongo Macharia. We want to pass our message of condolence as myself, as my family, and the people of Dagoretti South, not only to the late member Samwell Montari, but also to the family of the amazing lady Lorna Irungu Macharia. And to her husband, I say to him that, as the Bible says, mourning may endure through the night. However, joy will come in the morning. May the late Member of Parliament rest in peace. May Lorna shine on her way. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Kiare, you should take it upon yourself to bring such a motion. I think it will be important to immortalize the names of the members of this House who have served. The Honorable Chepkut. The Honorable Alice, there is nothing out of order. The Honorable Chepkut, proceed.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I've learned that the cruel hand of death has robbed the life and the soul of Honorable Samwell Montari, the former Member of Parliament of Kitutu. I remember very well, I met him with the late second president, an amazing president of the Republic of Kenya, President Daniel Toroitich Arap Moi, and my former boss, Honorable Waziri, the late Biwot. Samwell was a great man. He served the entire Kisii, more particularly Nyamira County and Kitutu, with the highest degree of commitment, with the highest degree of dedication in serving his people. It happens again that he resides in Trans Nzoia, Cherangani, where my relatives are. And this was a noble, great man. He was a born-again Christian, a Catholic like me. He was actually preaching the gospel like John the Baptist and win many souls unto the kingdom. So we've lost a born-again person. Without much ado, Mr. Speaker, sir, I'm in agreement that we are in the 12th Parliament. All members of Parliament who have served this nation, I want us, in recognition of their services in this republic, I want their memories be honored. I want us to create a very well-built, even as the great Makavuli died, he never took anything to heaven. Even the late Samwell, he never took anything, even the late President Moi. So in Bible it says, what does it benefit a man, or what does it profit a man to gain the whole world and loses his own soul? So I urge leaders that leadership is indeed a calling from God to serve humanity with honor, with integrity, as opposed to personal creed and sycophant. Let's serve this country with the highest degree of commitment. With those few remarks, may God Almighty rest Samwell Montari in eternal peace, his soul. Thank you.
Very well spoken, the Honorable Chepkut. And finally, the Honorable Ahome Mudone, member for Kandara.
And the word, Mr. Speaker, yes, I'm donning black because I've come from a burial of Honorable Amaua's father-in-law, which was in my constituency. And because I wanted to be in this session, Mr. Speaker, there was no time to change. Mr. Speaker, thank you for giving me this opportunity. Mr. Speaker, I hope honorable members are not making a pass on me. I have big daughters, so let us talk when we get outside.
The Honorable.
Mr. Speaker, I want to give my condolences on behalf of myself, on behalf of my family, and the Kandara constituency. I want to join my colleagues, especially the honorable member for Kitutu Masaba, Mr. Speaker, Honorable Mose, as he mourns the former member of parliament, the late Samwell Montari Mongare. Mr. Speaker, I have Googled very quickly to find out who he was. I can't see much, Mr. Speaker, and therefore those who are saying we need some archives, some record, data proper. But I do not agree, Mr. Speaker, that we need monuments. I think what we need, Mr. Speaker, is that these members who served before, I think, 1997, many of them, Mr. Speaker, are suffering. They earned very little money. And you know, public service is public service. You do the job, and the earnings are little. Mr. Speaker, we have seen these members of parliament, and I have looked at what they are asking for. Most of the package they are getting, I think it's not even, some are getting less than 2,000, others are getting 1,000. Mr. Speaker, they come to the lobby here to see whether an honorable member can be honorable enough to buy them tea. I think, Mr. Speaker, those are the things we need to look at. Their welfare, so that even as they become elderly, because it's inevitable, they are sickly, they cannot have any useful health care, Mr. Speaker. So I want to speak to that, and I'm sure he's one of those who suffered, because he served in 1977 to 79. 1977 to 1979, we need to look actually and see what kind of pension they are getting, especially this particular member, so that next time when we are mourning, we need to really think how we can address that specific issue. Mr. Speaker, that's why I was very keen to give my condolences, and therefore that's why I was putting an intervention button. I think we only care, many times we care when people have left. And I can see he has several number of children. Even it's also important to look at the family. Yes, they are mourning today, we will go there and mourn. But going forward, what do we normally do, Mr. Speaker, especially when you are not a sitting member of parliament? Even that is something that we need to talk about. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I'm grateful, Mr. Speaker, your eye always catches the honorable member of parliament for Kandara. Asante sana.
The honorable member for Kandara. I wanted to say that we are appropriately dressed for the address that we have just made, and you should not be afraid when these members are admiring you. Yes, you are appropriately dressed. You are properly dressed for the business that we have here, and your contribution is appreciated. Honorable members, allow me then to make the following communication before we proceed. This is communication from the chair on the proposed amendments to the Supplementary Appropriation Bill, National Assembly Bill number 9 of 2021. Honorable members, before we proceed to the next order, being the Committee of the Whole House to consider the Supplementary Appropriation Bill, National Assembly Bill number 9 of 2021, together with the Division of Revenue Bill 2021, I wish to make the following guidance relating to the consideration of the proposed amendments to the said bill. Honorable members, as you are aware, Article 114 of the Constitution obligates the Speaker to determine admissibility of any proposed amendment to a bill before its consideration at the Committee of the Whole House stage. As you may have observed, the notices annexed to the supplementary order paper of the evening sitting of today, Tuesday, 23rd March 2021 evening sitting, contain several amendments that have been proposed to the Supplementary Appropriation Bill, National Assembly Bill number 9 of 2021. The amendments have been proposed by the respective chairpersons of the Budget and Appropriations Committee and the Departmental Committee on Labor and Social Welfare. Honorable members, I have approved the amendments proposed by the Budget and Appropriations Committee as they are in order with respect to the requirements of Article 114 of the Constitution and the applicable standing orders. Those proposed amendments may therefore be considered in the Committee of the Whole House. With respect to amendments proposed by the chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Labor and Social Welfare, I regret that I will not permit their consideration in the Committee of the Whole House. This is because the amendments so proposed by the committee do not comply with the provisions of Article 114 of the Constitution. Honorable members, the guidance I have just given is not new to the House. In fact, as you may be aware, it is now an established practice that whenever the House is scheduled to consider any matter that may have financial implication on public funds within the meaning of Article 114 of the Constitution, the House is bound to proceed only in accordance with the recommendations of the relevant committee, having taken the views of the Cabinet Secretary for Finance. The House is accordingly guided. I thank you. The Honorable Justice Montari. So, honorable members, the House will proceed to the next stage, taking into account those the guidance that I've just set out. So the Committee of the Whole House will consider the amendments with those observations, with that communication in mind. Honorable members, next order.
Order number 8, Committee of the Whole House.
There are no amendments on this one. How many do we have? Order, members. We are now in the Committee of the Whole House. We shall start with the first bill, which is the Division of Revenue Bill, National Assembly Bill number 7 of 2021.
Clauses 3, 4, and 5.
Honorable members, I propose a question that clauses 3, 4, and 5 be part of the bill. We have no amendments to those clauses. I therefore put the question that clauses 3, 4, and 5 be part of the bill. Will as many as are of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as are of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it.
Schedule.
Honorable members, I propose the question that the schedule be part of the bill. No amendment. I therefore put the question that the schedule be part of the bill. Will as many as are of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as are of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it.
Clause 2.
I propose the question that clause 2 be part of the bill. We have no amendment to that. I therefore put the question that clause 2 be part of the bill. Will as many as are of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as are of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it.
Title.
Honorable members, I propose the question that the title be the title of the bill. I will put the question that the title be the title of the bill. Will as many as are of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as are of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it.
Clause 1.
I propose a question that clause 1 be part of the bill. I put the question that clause 1 be part of the bill. Will as many as are of that opinion say aye? Will as many as are of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Honorable members, we are done with that bill. We must report progress. Mover. Who is the mover? Is it the majority or Honorable Kanini? Chair. Give him the mic. Give him the mic. Honorable Chair, you'll get a mic in a minute. The system seems to be slow.
Thank you, Chair. Honorable Chair, I beg to move that the committee do report to the House its consideration of the Division of Revenue Bill, National Assembly Bill number 7 of 2021, and its approval thereof without amendment. Thank you.
Honorable members, I put the question, which is that the committee do report to the House its consideration of the Division of Revenue Bill, National Assembly Bill number 7 of 2021, and its approval thereof without amendments. Will as many as are of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as are of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Honorable members, we are done with that bill, the Division of Revenue Bill. We shall now proceed to the next bill, which is the Supplementary Appropriation Bill, National Assembly Bill number 9 of 2021.
Clauses 2, 3, 4, and 5.
Honorable members, I propose a question that clauses 2, 3, 4, and 5 be part of the bill. We don't have amendments to those. I therefore put the question that clauses 2, 3, 4, and 5 be part of the bill. Will as many as are of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as are of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it.
First schedule.
Honorable members, I propose a question that the first schedule be part of the bill. We have no amendment to that particular one. I therefore put the question that the first schedule be part of the bill. Will as many as are of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as are of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it.
Second schedule.
Honorable members, I propose a question that the second schedule be part of the bill. We have an amendment by the Honorable Chair. Honorable Chair, Budget, please move the amendment. We have a challenge with your mic for some reason. You have to migrate. You may have to use a mic at the dispatch box or something. Yes. Yeah, please proceed. Use the mic at the dispatch box.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair. I beg to move that the second schedule be amended as A in the vote R 1175, that is State Department for Industrialization, by inserting the figure 30 million in the third column on supply against the program as stated in the order paper. B, that a consequential adjustment be made or to the total subtotals, and totals in the respective schedules to effect the amendment. Honorable Speaker, this was more of a typing error. It was an omission, Honorable Speaker. This is money that's supposed to go to P&E. for KIE. With that, I submit.
Sorry, honorable members, I think that we have a challenge with the system, the mic system. That's why, and I'm sure the people concerned are sorting it out. Honorable members, I propose a question that the second schedule be amended as proposed by the honorable chair. I now put the question that the second schedule be amended as proposed by the honorable chair. Will as many as are of that opinion say aye? Will as many as are of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. I now put the question that the second schedule as amended be part of the bill. Will as many as are of that opinion say aye? Will as many as are of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it.
Title.
Honorable members, I propose a question that the title be the title of the bill. I put the question that the title be the title of the bill. Will as many as are of that opinion say aye? Will as many as are of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it.
Clause 1.
Honorable members, I propose a question that clause 1 be part of the bill. No amendment to it. I therefore put the question that clause 1 be part of the bill. Will as many as are of that opinion say aye? Order, members. Even the chair of the budget is not voting. I'll put that again, honorable members. I now put the question that clause 1 be part of the bill. Will as many as are of that opinion say aye? Will as many as are of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Honorable members, we are done with that bill. Mover.
Thank you, Chair. Honorable Chair, I beg to move that the committee do a report to the House its consideration of the Supplementary Appropriation Bill, National Assembly number 9 of 2021, and its approval thereof with amendments. I thank you, Chair.
Honorable members, I put the question that the committee do report to the House its consideration of the Supplementary Appropriation Bill, National Assembly Bill number 9 of 2021, and its approval thereof with amendments. Will as many as are of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as are of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. And we need the social distance. Honorable Badi, social distance there. Order. The chair. Division. Honorable Speaker, I beg to report that the Committee of the Whole House has considered the Division of Revenue Bill, National Assembly Bill number 7 of 2021 and approved the same without amendments. Mover.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to move that the House do agree with the committee in the said report, and I also request Honorable John Badi to second the motion for the agreement with the report of the Committee of the Whole House.
Honorable Mbadi. Very well.
Mr. Speaker, I second.
Very well. Honorable members, I propose the question, which is that the House do agree with the committee in the said report. Honorable members, I put the question, which is that the House do agree with the committee in the said report. Will as members of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as members of a contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. The mover for third reading.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to move that the Division of Revenue Bill, National Assembly, number 7 of 2021, be now read a third time. I also request Honorable John Buddy to second.
The Honorable Mbadi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I second.
Honorable members, I propose the question, which is that the Division of Revenue Bill, National Assembly Bill number 7 of 2021 be now read a third time.
Put the question.
Is it the mood of the House that we put the question? Honorable members, I have confirmed that we have the requisite quorum in the House for purposes of making a decision. I therefore put the question, which is that the Division of Revenue Bill, National Assembly Bill number 7 of 2021 be now read a third time. Will as members of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as members of a contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. The Honorable Mbadi, you can see why the House is excited. It must be from where you are seated. It is at a vantage point and also from. But let's move on to the next business, which is. Yeah, let's read it. The third
A bill for an act of Parliament to provide for the equitable division of revenue raised nationally between the national and county governments in 2021-2022 financial year and for connected purposes.
Very well. Next business. The next chair.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to report that the Committee of the whole House has considered the Supplementary Appropriation Bill, National Assembly Bill number 9 of 2021 and approved the same with amendments.
Mover.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I beg to move that this House do agree with the report of the Committee of the whole House on the consideration of the Supplementary Appropriations Bill, National Assembly Bill number 9 of 2021, and also request Honorable David Sankok, nominee 001, to second.
The Honorable Sankok.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Moving away from the family business of Honorable Mbadi, I do second. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable members, I propose the question that this House do agree with the report of the Committee of the whole House on its consideration of the Supplementary Appropriation Bill, National Assembly Bill number 9 of 2021. Very well, honorable members, if that's the mood of the House, I put the question that this House do agree with the report of the Committee of the whole House on its consideration of the Supplementary Appropriation Bill, National Assembly Bill number 9 of 2021. Will as members of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as members of a contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Move third reading.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I beg to move that the Supplementary Appropriations Bill, National Assembly number 9 of 2021, be now read a third time. I also request Honorable Jonathan Ngeno, MP for Emurua Dikil, to second.
The Honorable Johanna. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. My name's Johanna Ngeno Kipiegon, not Jonathan, but I wish to second. Thank you. Very well noted. Honorable members, I now propose the question that the Supplementary Appropriation Bill, National Assembly Bill number 9 of 2021, be now read a third time. Is it the mood that we put the question? Yes. I have confirmed that we have the requisite quorum present in the House for purposes of making this decision. I therefore put the question that the Supplementary Appropriation Bill, National Assembly Bill number 9 of 2021, be now read a third time. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as of contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it.
A bill for an act of parliament to authorize the issue of certain sums of money out of the consolidated fund and the application towards the service of the year ending on the 30th June 2021, and to appropriate those sums for certain public services and purposes. Order number 9, the Business Laws Amendment number 2 Bill, National Assembly Bill number 50 of 2020, second reading.
Honorable members, from your order paper, you'll see that this is business that was disrupted on Tuesday, March the 23rd, 2021. So we shall be picking it up from where we left. Honorable members, as you retreat, please note that this bill still has 2 hours for debate, and the Honorable Okello. 2 hours? 8 minutes. The Honorable Okello Odoyo, member for Nyando, had a balance of 3 minutes, which he may enjoy right away. The Honorable Okello, proceed.
I thank you, Honorable Speaker, but before I delve into this, I may seek your protection as members leave the chambers. They can leave without necessarily uttering any word. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I had moved my points, but now I want to qualify a few of them before I give a chance to my colleagues also to put across their submissions. Mr. Speaker, COVID-19 has indeed battered all nations, and a country such as Kenya must be in a position to reposition itself in such a way that when COVID will go, just like Spanish flu went, Ebola came and went, that our country will not suffer very heavy consequences as a result of COVID-19. Countries cannot effectively trade either bilaterally or multilaterally, and therefore many nations are grounded to a halt. And our country, Kenya, with the motion that is before us, will be able to position itself in such a way that once normalcy is resumed, we will be able to bounce back. Honorable Speaker, I did allude to the fact that through several reports, it has been established that our country loses 100 billion shillings in Nairobi as a result of traffic. This is a research that was carried out by Kenya National Bureau of Statistics, and all of us can bear witness that the inordinate delays occasioned by traffic in this city that may run up to 4 or 5 hours in a day contributes quite immensely to the moneylessness that we have as a country. 100 billion shillings is lost either in terms of fuel burning without movement, is lost in terms of time, which therefore puts us into a quandary. And therefore something needs to be done even as we expand our business horizon so that as a nation we can also quickly move to the places where we transact. Honorable Speaker, we needed to have a balance of trade with our partner nations, whereby we need to export more and import much less, and that consequently stabilizes our shilling that has received a beating as well. And Honorable Speaker, I therefore support this motion on the Business Laws Amendment number 21 bill. Thank you.
The Honorable Nyoro Ndindi, member for Kiharu.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And I rise to support the bill and the entire amendments. Mr. Speaker, when we talk about business, we are talking about economies of nations. Because, Mr. Speaker, for countries that are not mineral rich, countries that are not endowed in natural resources, Mr. Speaker, the governments and the kings and the rulers will only have to depend with taxes. And Mr. Speaker, therefore, for all the countries that are not mineral rich, they have to rely on taxes, and taxes basically comes from transactions, Mr. Speaker. And therefore, for these governments to operate, and even for the economies to grow, Mr. Speaker, there has to be a singular move of growing the enterprise and the businesses of those nations. And Mr. Speaker, fortunately, or unfortunately so, Kenya lies on that category, on those economies and those countries that must rely on enterprise. And Mr. Speaker, if you compare a country like Kenya, I think we can be bundled together with countries that are much more developed in terms of their genesis of the economy, like the US and the UK, Mr. Speaker, and especially in comparison to other economies like Saudi Arabia, like the UAE, like Russia, that are more robust and have developed on the basis of the minerals, Mr. Speaker, and natural resources endowed unto them. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, even as I support this bill, Mr. Speaker, we have to ask ourselves some few issues. Number one, we talk about business. But if we talk about the evolution of businesses in the current modern economies, Mr. Speaker, every business starts with an idea. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, after that, the idea is financed. And after the finance, the idea is commercialized. Mr. Speaker, there seems to be a disconnect in this country, and especially in the modern way of doing business, because we see especially many young people, Mr. Speaker, endowed with great ideas and ingenuity and imagination, but turning the same to a business and commercializing the same, Mr. Speaker, there is a gap. I have said before, and I want to repeat, that the US that we know as a giant economy, actually most of the synonymous areas, when you talk about the economy of the US, Mr. Speaker, you cannot talk about the US without talking about Silicon Valley. You can also not talk about the US in terms of the economy without referencing on Wall Street. Mr. Speaker, there is a connection that the bright ideas of Silicon Valley must need Wall Street for them to be funded so that, Mr. Speaker, they can transform from the mind, they transform from imagination into enterprises that actually make money, Mr. Speaker, for the founders and also for those countries. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, that is why I am at pains. Because when we talk about funding of businesses, we talk about banks. That is the elementary level. But there are also other funding that we can bring forth and even registrate to promote that goes a long way into pampering and also into acting, Mr. Speaker, as financiers of these ideas. Something like venture capital, Mr. Speaker, that in Kenya that is so nascent, almost not existent. Something like private equity that comes to boost businesses that are already ongoing. Mr. Speaker, there is also something that is almost forgotten, and especially in the 10 years of the Jubilee administration, that of raising money using the secondary markets and especially in Kenya, the Nairobi Securities Exchange. Mr. Speaker, I rise here, Mr. Speaker, not a very happy man, not a very happy Kenyan, because the NSE has become very moribund. We have seen many companies delisting from the NSE than we should see many listing, Mr. Speaker. Because when we see many companies listing, it means many companies are raising money, and therefore many companies, Mr. Speaker, are growing, employing more and growing the economy. Currently, we have a monopoly where the Nairobi Securities Exchange, the 56% of the entire capitalization of the NSE, Mr. Speaker, is made up of Safaricom capitalization. It is a good thing to one company, but I don't think it is a good thing for the economy of this nation. We have seen the listings of companies like Rea Vipingo. We saw one now that is happening of KQ and many others, Mr. Speaker, and I don't think these are signs of a growing economy. Mr. Speaker, when we talk about ease of doing business, sometimes we talk about it, Mr. Speaker, just in jest. But it's good for us to understand that even beyond the red tape, beyond the bureaucracy, that we must continue to cut, Mr. Speaker, so that we can open up the space for ease of the investors, Mr. Speaker. There is also another hard part of the ease of doing business. Because we can make the soft part very meticulous, we can make it very well, but Mr. Speaker, however much we make the ease of doing business in terms of registration, in terms of paperwork, Mr. Speaker, investors do not rely on the ground, on the paperwork. They rely on good infrastructure, that is roads. They rely on power, Mr. Speaker. And I think we have a big problem when it comes to power in this problem, especially new connections, Mr. Speaker. I think we have given Kenya Power a lot of government jobs, Mr. Speaker, that are not paid for, to a point where, Mr. Speaker, this company is carrying a huge burden on that should actually be carried by GOK. But in terms of penetration, Mr. Speaker, we are okay, and especially regionally. But in terms of efficiency, connecting new businesses and even new homes to electricity, Mr. Speaker, there is a problem. Also, Mr. Speaker, this country, we have done very well in fiber connection and IT, but I think we have a long way to go when it comes to last mile. Because just like water, you may have trunks of pipes, but if you don't have the last mile connectivity, it is of no utility. It goes the same to internet, Mr. Speaker. You may have a lot of black fiber around the country. You may have a lot of trunk fiber around the country. But if you don't have the last mile connectivity, Mr. Speaker, it is of no use, Mr. Speaker, to the investors and also to the population of Kenya. Mr. Speaker, Kenya is endowed with very robust human resource. Kenyans are very highly trained, Mr. Speaker, and I think it will go a long way in creating more and more investors to come into our country, Mr. Speaker, so that we can open up opportunities for these many enterprising Kenyans. Mr. Speaker, I have read something about the sale that we are amending. Mr. Speaker, our grandfathers relied on agrarian economy. Our grandfathers relied on goats, relied on cows, relied on agrarian, on farming, Mr. Speaker. Our fathers relied on enterprise and especially industrialization. Mr. Speaker, at our age, whereas we also have to rely on some degree to those two, our economy is now more open, Mr. Speaker, and our generation lives online, actually eats online, works online, Mr. Speaker, and therefore gets paid online. And Mr. Speaker, for us to have come up with laws that actually admit that you are living in different times, I think it is good for us to keep registering on the basis of the times that we are living in. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, even doing away with the physical seal, it's one way of telling the many business people doing business online that you do not have to be tied on the physical things like the physical seal that we know that many companies rely on. Mr. Speaker, as I come to the close, I think we have to come to an agreement as a nation and even as a house that the work of government, when we talk about business, must be left to enabling and must be left to regulation. Mr. Speaker, we have seen our government, especially in Kenya, engaging in too many business engagements, Mr. Speaker, many of whom make losses, like we saw today in KQ. Mr. Speaker, the role of business should be left to business people, not the government. And Mr. Speaker, I have to reference something that I really like reading about. Mr. Speaker, South Korea in 1960, President General Park, Mr. Speaker, take the helm. Mr. Speaker, for only 19 years, because he led an export-led economy, South Korea exports grew 364 times, Mr. Speaker. Companies that we see today like Samsung, they are actually textile companies there before, Mr. Speaker. I'm just emphasizing this to show that the difference between nations that actually go ahead of others, primarily it is leadership. We have a good opportunity even to transform our country.
The Honorable Ndinde, you will have a minute to tell me about South Korea.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I was just trying to say that South Korea from 1960 to 1979, during the rule of General Park, the exports of South Korea grew by actually 364 times. It was growing on 40% per annum compounded. Meaning, when you grow these companies, Mr. Speaker, you are opening up many opportunities for many other people out here. Economies, we can also talk about China, Mr. Speaker, and especially when Deng Xiaoping took the reins in around 1978, Mr. Speaker. These are just examples to show, Mr. Speaker, that the difference between countries that excel, Mr. Speaker, is actually on the basis of the leadership, the basis of policies. And therefore, even in Kenya, we have an opportunity to make it great again. Asante sana.
Very well represented, the Honorable Ndindi. That's good. The Honorable Muli Fabian, member for Kangundo.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving this opportunity to affirm the legislative process of this business law. Also, Honorable Speaker, I'd also like to thank the Majority Leader for coming up with the business law at this time when our economy has been constrained of COVID. It is true where we are going. We need to remove some bureaucracy when we are doing things in this country. This country is still lacking behind because we are doing things the way we used to do like 1960s. Things like law of contract, Honorable Speaker, is a very big matter in terms of doing business. That's where you get invitation to treat, the time factor and the consideration value of that business you are doing. But considering the huge traffic we are having, it is the best time we need to come up with the measures how we can deal with things of law of contracts. The law of contract being to be signing the contract by digital is a way of making the business move easy. So, Honorable Speaker, I'd like to appreciate the fact that now the law of contract about the issue that we'll be having a digital signing of documents, which before, when you sign document digitally, we are not considered as a legal document. Also, Honorable Speaker, if you check the RDA, the Registration of Document Act, this is where our Kenyan people really cry a lot, like getting a birth certificate, getting an ID, getting a good contract, getting a passport. These documents, nowadays, we can get them in the e-citizen. We congratulate our minister, Honorable Matiang'i, by bringing the passport. You can get it like online and easy. But despite this, we're having a lot of challenges, our Kenyans. The booking time, you book your passport, which you'll be invited to go to migration after 2 months. Why is all taking long? Again, the good conduct. To get a document like a good conduct, our young brothers and sisters, the booking time is so long. It is taking long. By the time you be called to go to get the fingerprint. So despite these registration documents have become online, there are still some challenges which you are the Minister of Interior to implement and make sure these things are done faster. Again, the issues of birth certificates. If you see the cry of the whole country, every constituency has the cry of the birth certificate. Because RDA has brought that thing of organized online registration, it is also the high time of the Minister of Interior to make sure that our birth certificates, they can be digitalized everywhere in the whole country, and our people can get birth certificate without constraint they are facing. The other thing is about Common Law Act. The Common Law Act is the long existing procedure where, like before, to have a company was a big thing. And now we have seen now you can register companies online, but still there are still challenges. We want people to do business and we want people to pay tax. So I don't know why reason you keep on asking people main document. If you have an ID card, you need to be given a chance to register your company. Actually, a company is another way of giving our youth a chance to do business. I don't know why we keep on asking two main documents to our youth to register a company. So I like to recognize the fact that the Company Act has brought online registration. It has now officially you can do online registration of your company. But we need to remove some documents which you're asking our youth when they're registering company. The other issue about the business law is that we have Surveyors Act. It is very funny, if you see the surveyors law they use, they don't recognize the GCP, the Google Cloud Platform maps. Every map we have, even we are using for the road, we are using for GCP. Even now when you go to the satellite mapping, the satellite mapping used by surveyors is for GCP. So I will appreciate the fact that the majority has seen that surveyors hacked. Some activities can come to be online and to be digitalized. So that's why I support and say that more we need to encourage satellite mapping, because this challenge of boundaries in terms of people lands demarcation is a challenge also. The other issue is about insolvency. It's talking about insolvency. I don't know. It's given 5 days rather than before earlier. You are not able to know when they are going to declare the document public. Now this business law, they have given 5 days that you are able to declare when somebody information, I give the full information about insolvency. Honorable Speaker, there is one I won't forget to talk about it on my conclusion. As we say, the land registry maybe it was removed or will come back, won't come back. This country, we are crying about the Minister of Lands. Our people are facing challenges because of land registration. Especially my constituency in Kangundo, my judiciary, they have money. They cannot build a judiciary office because the registrar has never given them the title. The land registry, Honorable Speaker, I also arguing the majority leader, we should think about bringing laws which will digitalize this process. Because how can our whole constituency, the judiciary are giving them money, you cannot build an office because of title deed, the land is there, the land was allocated in the 1980s, and they have to now not register. So, Honorable Speaker, with those few remarks, I support. Thank you very much.
The Honorable Kimani Kuria, member for Molo.
I thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this chance to add my voice on the Business Laws Amendment Bill of the year 2021. Mr. Speaker, from the onset, this bill seeks to address the issues of ease of doing business. The report on ease of doing business released last year showed Kenya to be number 120 out of 190. That is dismal performance, considering that we pride ourselves in one of being the best countries in Africa in terms of ease of doing business, in our imaginations, Mr. Speaker. Research has shown that entrepreneurs in low-income countries spend 50% of their per capita income to just launch a company and get it running, compared to 4.2% in developed countries. So what does that mean? That a company that is opening up in Kenya will spend 50% of its per capita of its per capita income compared to 4.2% for a company offering similar service in UK. Mr. Speaker, no wonder that despite Kenya signing very many trade agreements with various countries in the world, we still have a deficit balance of trade. Because with that disadvantage, when that company is kicking off, it means no matter how much we try to take advantage of these free trade agreements or those trade agreements, then we don't get anywhere because we are at 50% expenses when they are at 4.2%. So does this bill, Mr. Speaker, treat this disease of expensiveness and difficulty or easiness of doing business? So I asked myself, what are these parameters that measures the ease of doing business? And Mr. Speaker, these parameters include and are not limited to when you're starting a business, doing business registration, what procedures do you follow? How much time do you spend? How much does it cost you to do that? When you need to do a construction, how easy is it to get those construction permits? What is the ease of accessing electricity? And I dare say, Mr. Speaker, Kenya is one of the few countries that has so many companies that are dealing only with electricity. We have companies like Geothermal and Kengen that are doing the generation of power, another government parastatal called Ketraco doing the transmission, another company called Kenya Power and Lighting Company doing the billing and the utilization of that power. And this has therefore made power one of the most expensive in our region, Mr. Speaker. Registering property, how easy is it to register property when you decide to buy property or lease property in that particular area, in that particular country? How easy is it to get credit? Are SMEs protected? How easy is it to pay taxes? How easy is it to trade across borders? How do you ensure that you enforce contracts? How do you solve insolvency? And how do you use ICT in your operations? So I looked at these parameters, Mr. Speaker, and I was asking myself, does these amendments, as proposed by the Honorable Leader of Majority, address those parameters? And I'll say yes, Mr. Speaker. On the issue of paying taxes, there are these statutory deductions, NHIF, NSSF, and PAYE. And as an accountant, I'll tell you, sometimes it's quite a pain at the end of the month, because there are some that lapse, I think, on the 5th day, others are supposed to be paid on the 9th, others are supposed to be paid by the 11th day. And therefore, the regularization of one date for the payment of these levies is a great way to ensuring easiness in terms of paying our taxes. Mr. Speaker, let's talk about stamp duty on contracts. I think the only time Kenyans think about stamps is when we are sending success cards to our KCP and KCSE candidates. Only to imagine in 2021, we still have stamp duties that are used to impose contracts, Mr. Speaker. So the removal of stamp duty on enforcing our contracts is a step in the right direction. What about company seal? Imagine in 2021, you still have to carry that metallic thing, and now you have to sign all those documents. How do you even carry it? We know in a country where we're talking about digital signatures. So the removal of the requirement to use, Mr. Speaker, the company seal is right in the direction in terms of ease of doing business. COVID-19 has showed us that we don't need to physically meet to pass a resolution. And therefore, our amending the Act, the Companies Act, to allow hybrid or virtual meeting to be part of statutory meetings statutory meeting in the Companies Act, Mr. Speaker, would be a step in the right direction. It has been said here that if someone owes you money in a business transaction, the easiest thing to do is tell them go to court, and it's going to take 5 years for you to get that payment. So the amendment of the law to allow 60 days adjunction of, to allow a maximum of 60 days adjunction of small cases, Mr. Speaker, is a step in the right direction. Having done that as a national government, does that solve the problem that one will experience if they go to Nakuru or Molo or anywhere in this country and want to register a business? And Mr. Speaker, unfortunately, the answer is no. Because there are still these levies. There are these bureaucracies that are done by the county governments. An example, Mr. Speaker, is the issue of fire. You find that for you to register a business, you are supposed to have some fire certificates. In that license, there is a fee that you pay for fire services. And like, for example, Mr. Speaker, in Nakuru County, in Molo constituency in particular, we've had perennial fires. We've had, last week we lost a woman in a fire, a very old lady in a fire. We lost very many businesses, very many houses in fires. And yet, these registered businesses do pay in their licenses, money that's supposed to go to cushion them against these fires. So in as much as the national government may do their part, the county governments will still let us down. And maybe this is another example is the health certificate. Mr. Speaker, if you just open a small business of washing cars, then your county government will require you to get a health certificate. For what? Do you need a health certificate to clean a car? And Mr. Speaker, these are some of the weird and absurd levies and conditions that our county governments are imposing on our business people. So in as much as, Mr. Speaker, that we are saying that by passing these amendments, then it's going to ensure ease of doing business, our county assemblies and the Senate should raise up the occasion and do the same, so that we do not make it easy for a company to come and do business in Kenya, only for them to go and get frustrated by our county government. And that, Mr. Speaker, I support. Thank you.
Very good contribution. We shall now have the Honorable Undo, member for Funyala.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I rise to support the Business Laws Amendment Bill number 2 of 2020. Honorable Speaker, any given time as a country, we must always address the challenges that are faced by very many people who partake in the business of whichever nature. Honorable Speaker, I do believe this amendment bill has been brought before this House for purposes of addressing bottlenecks that many people have faced as a result of COVID-19 and in a continuous process of improving the business environment. Honorable Speaker, I sit in the Committee of Trade, Industry and Cooperative, and one of the main issues that we keep on looking at is how do we improve the business environment to enable both Kenyans and non-Kenyans do business seamlessly at less cost and most efficiently. Honorable Speaker, the World Bank has over the years undertaken a survey to assess the issue of doing business all over the country. In 2018, Honorable Speaker, Kenya was ranked number 61 out of 190 economies that were surveyed. In 2019, Honorable Speaker, Kenya was ranked number 56, again out of the 190 economies surveyed. Therefore, Honorable Speaker, we are making progress, and I do believe and trust that these amendments, once they become law, they will make our business environment more hospitable and will improve on our rating so that we can attract foreign investment. Honorable Speaker, the proposed amendment covers quite a number of areas. Covers remittance, statutory remittances for NHIF, NSSF, and NITA. Covers issues to do with insolvency. Covers issues to do with contract management. Again, in the same score, Honorable Speaker, Kenya has been ranked number 50 in terms of resolving insolvency. We do believe that the amendments proposed under this act will again allow Kenya to have an improved rating. Honorable Speaker, looking at the specific amendments, it is important to harmonize the dates when to remit the so-called statutory deductions and then the Industrial Training Act, as well as NHIF and NSSF. Honorable Speaker, as it stood, remitting on the first day of the month was obviously cumbersome. That's why you find quite a number, both NSSF and NHIF, had set a date that was different from first. But this was done by administrative fiat. That's why it is important that we put it in law. However, Honorable Speaker, again, many employers and many businesses would want one harmonized date to make remittances for statutory deductions. That is payee, VAT, in the NITA fee, all the levies, NSF and NHIF. As we stand here, Honorable Speaker, the amendments only addresses those three, leaves the others to be paid on a different dates. It's our desire that probably when we go to the Committee of the whole House, we need to find a way how to harmonize so that on one single day, you are paying for VAT, you are paying for payee, you are paying for NSSF, you are paying for NHIF, you are paying for NITA. If those tourism development levies they are paid on the same day. In such a way, it will be much neater and more comfortable and convenient to many people. Honorable Speakers, you are aware, one of the hallmark, one of the reasons for taxation, one of the principles of taxation, there must be convenience in remitting, collecting, and remitting. When you have different days, it becomes inconvenient. Honorable Speaker, the second matter that has been addressed in this particular amendment bill is on the issue, most of which I want to talk about, in the issue of the general meeting under the Companies Act. Honorable Speaker, we must accept that COVID-19 has changed the landscape once and for all. It will never be the same again. We are going to remain with the COVID-19 for many years to come until we vaccinate every single Kenyan, which is estimated to be 2023. We must find a convenient way to hold annual general meeting as required under the Companies Act. Honorable Speaker, we do laud the proposal by the government to allow for hybrid meeting, a virtual meeting, any form of meeting that can be done at the same time. But Honorable Speaker, with our unstable internet connectivity, this is still going to be a problem, and more so to the minority shareholders who cannot probably have access to this kind of things is going to still remain a problem. So it's a call, therefore, that should not just appear in the letter of the law, but we must do all that we can to ensure that there is stable internet all over the country, so that those who wishes to attend the board AGM through virtual ways are facilitated with stable internet. Others will become just a waste of time. We will never achieve actual intention of the law. When you look at the Insolvency Act, Honorable Speaker, again, as I mentioned, Kenya has been ranked favorably in resolving insolvency issues. I do believe the purpose of the amendments is to put clarity on the procedure, the timings, and everything. As I go to conclude, Honorable Speaker, allow me to make a comment on the Small Claims Court Act that is proposing to ensure that the disputes are settled within 60 days. Honorable Speaker, the world outside there is inundated with so many disputes between businesses, between one party and another. The court process, as we have always said, is a lengthy, cumbersome, and expensive process. It was the intention of the Small Claims Court that this matter is going to be done or resolved expeditiously to the benefit of everybody. We do therefore allow the 60 days, but however, Honorable Speaker, due to inflation and changed business environments, Honorable Speaker, again the limit of 1 million seems to be a bit too low. It might be necessary in the fullness of time to change the same to ensure that we have a higher limit so that we reduce the court processes, the lengthy and endless and court backlog in the formal courts. Honorable Speaker, as I conclude, allow me, Honorable Speaker, to make two comments general about the business environment. Kenya is reputed to be one of the robust growing economy. We have assigned various trade agreements. Unless, Honorable Speaker, we improve on the way we do business, we address the enablers, all these agreements we are signing will still remain in the advantage of the partners we are signing with. So therefore, it's a call, us as a country, the various government stakeholders, to ensure that the enablers are addressed. Issue of high electricity costs, Honorable Speaker, is a matter that needs to be addressed. The issue of inadequate water supply is a matter that needs to be addressed. The issue of corruption and the call for bribes for even getting a smaller favor or service from the government needs to be addressed. Our corruption index is still worrying, and unless we address that one, we are going to discourage investors from coming to invest in this country. With those few remarks, Honorable Speaker, I support the bill.
The Honorable Kishimo Githinji.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to contribute to this business laws bill. Mr. Speaker, let me start by thanking the government through the majority leader for bringing what I would call an ideal omnibus bill because it touches on the very minor things that do not go to the content and the substance of the main of the bills that are sought to be amended. Mr. Speaker, as I support, first, the Industrial Training Act, the National Hospital Insurance Fund Act, and the National Security Fund Act basically seeks to harmonize the dates for the statutory deductions therein. Mr. Speaker, as has been submitted by some of the members who have already contributed, I think the other statutory deductions also need to be brought on board so that they can also be harmonized to avoid confusion by the payers. Mr. Speaker, however, I believe that is a business for another day because we don't have the other deductions or the other acts where the other deductions fall under the relevant, under the current business laws. But I believe with the remarks and the contribution that has come from this House, I believe whoever needs to do what needs to be done can bring them on board and we can be able to harmonize. Mr. Speaker, on the issue of the making it easy for business registration by the elimination of the use of the company seal, I believe and I support is a move towards the right direction. But however, Mr. Speaker, we need to ask ourselves what follows after making it easy for someone to register a business. I think the registration is not enough because we should, as a government, as the institutions that are mandated to empower especially our youth, we should go ahead and provide environments where these youths can be easily be able to do the business. And one of the areas that we should be looking at, it's not only for the local businesses within Kenya. Having signed a direct agreement with the UK, Kenya-UK trading agreement, Mr. Speaker, I think it's a high time we empower the Department of Trade to be able to sensitize the communities, to sensitize Kenyans on the areas and the openings that are available for us to be able to utilize for the benefit of exports. I hold the school of thought that this country will only grow and will only progress economically if we look at ways of expanding our exports, but not relying on just the local trade, whereby we will be doing like exchange of goods, which I would call, for lack of better terms, barter trade within ourselves. Mr. Speaker, the ease of doing business it is so wide, and I believe it is a high time. The government also came with an act of ease of doing business, which will touch in each and every aspect of the economy, whereby we can be able to make it easy for businesses in this country to prosper. Mr. Speaker, on the other issue of the amendment under the Insolvency Act, Mr. Speaker, I agree it is important to introduce a pre-insolvency moratorium in the Act so that these businesses that are likely to collapse, there is a safety measure or a safety valve to help them so that they are not invaded by the creditors and everyone who usually rush to get whatever they have instead of trying them to resuscitate them. Mr. Speaker, but beyond that, we should also be asking ourselves, why should some institutions and companies collapse? That is, actually, we should be addressing the preventive measures than actually the healing measures as it is being addressed by this provision. Of great excitement, Mr. Speaker, is about the small claim courts. Backlog in courts has always been there for ages now, and I believe the amendment to fix the time for expenditures or adjudication of these cases to 60 days.
The Honorable Kizito, where is out of order? You had pressed the intervention. Just hold on, the Honorable Kishimo.
Mr. Speaker, I think he was leaving. I don't think...
He had given up on his point of order. Proceed.
Mr. Speaker, I think it was not a deliberate intention to interrupt me, but I believe Mr. Speaker cannot, Honorable Kizito cannot go to that extent. Mr. Speaker, I was talking about the Small Claims Court Act, which is being amended to bring down the period for adjudication and determination of these cases to 60 days. Mr. Speaker, this will really help in clearing the backlog in courts, because most of the claims, most of the cases that we find in these courts are usually matters that range below 1 million. And Mr. Speaker, further, going forward, I think after amending and fixing this period, it would be important also to have a separate court, magistrates court, to deal with these matters, so that we don't mix the two and get all the other matters adjourned to give preference and precedent to the matters, to the small claims court. And Mr. Speaker, as I wind up, to give way for my colleagues also to contribute, Mr. Speaker, these are claims that only mostly touch on small and medium enterprises. And their businesses will be able to thrive if their cases are dispensed and in good time. Mr. Speaker, I rest my submissions and I support. Thank you.
Well, the Honorable Njiru Mushangi, member for Unyenjes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to support this bill. And I want to start by thanking the Majority Leader for this very good bill. This bill, Mr. Speaker, seeks to make or to bring an enabling environment for business persons, and that is local and even international business people, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, this country has a very huge population of young people, many of them who are very creative, they are full of energy, but also, Mr. Speaker, it is important to note that majority of these young people are jobless. So a better environment for business gives them an opportunity to indulge into business activities and to grow themselves and to create opportunities for others, Mr. Speaker. So I do not want to dwell so much on it, and I want to support. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Very well spoken. The Honorable Thuku Kwenya, Kinangop, member for Kinangop.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'll be a bit fast because of time, so that I can donate some time to my colleague Honorable KJ. But Mr. Speaker, as I support this, bill on business laws amendment, which is a raft of statutes, I wish to state from the onset, as much as I support, I think whatever it is that we're trying to address here is so simplistic. The laws that we should be dealing with should be the laws that touch directly to the business community that we have in the Republic of Kenya. Because indeed, the kind of requirements that business people go through for them to engage in any form of business in this country are so many, and the costs, of course, are up there. For instance, if you're in construction industry, and thanks to the Leader of Majority for dropping the two statutes, one on National Construction Authority, because I had gone through their recommendations, and really dropping them was in very good faith, because that would have even made doing business in Kenya a very difficult thing. if for instance, you are interested in doing construction, the kind of licenses that you have to get are just such a big loss to any business entity. And that is why, comparatively, Kenya is not the best destination for business people who want to invest because of the kind of frustrations they go through to get all the approvals that are required. If you're in power industry, you'll have to go through a regulatory body called EPRA. You have to get licenses. Then from there, get trading license, get tax compliance certificates, which are also a big issue and deterrent to people who are serious in doing business. One thing I would recommend is that maybe going forward, we should even look at VAT Act so that then business people are not required to file their returns every month. This can be done quarterly. Again, the issue of the fact that you have to be tax compliant and maybe you are a youth, and it becomes so difficult for a youth to file returns every month. And if it's area to which you pay a fine of 10,000, many of our young people are not able to do business today because they cannot comply with that one simple rule. Mr. Speaker, I wish to conclude by saying that we need, as a House, and maybe the majority leader should take note of this, is he planned to bring the statute laws that are related to doing business, that he should look wholesomely into the deterrents of the deterrents that cause our people to find it so difficult to do business in this republic. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, I support this, but I think that more should be done. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honorable Aweru Kiaria, member for Dagoretti South.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And the opportunity to stand up and support this business laws amendment bill is not taken for granted, Mr. Speaker. I first want to congratulate the leader of majority, first for preparing an amazing bill that we will support, even without any need for amendment. And secondly, also for his patience, knowing that he sits here the whole day, unlike some of us who are able to even take health breaks. And for that, I do congratulate the leader of majority. Mr. Speaker, as we talk about ease of doing business, we've also got to understand our history of business. Mr. Speaker, to my mind, I believe that global business over the years and throughout history has been informed by historical epochs. These epochs could be revolutions that changed the world, Mr. Speaker. I believe that at the onset, business was spurred by the first revolution, where a man was able to mechanize. He was able to have a steam engine. They were able to get power out of water. And that was the first revolution that informed business, Mr. Speaker. There was a second revolution, Mr. Speaker, where mass production became the thing, the order of the day, Mr. Speaker. And it is this time that electricity was introduced, Mr. Speaker. And this did inform business, Mr. Speaker. The third revolution, which I believe informed business, is what we used to call the .com, Mr. Speaker. Around the turn of the millennium, when electronics and IT systems and automation took over. Right now, as we speak, Mr. Speaker, we're in what I would call the cyber physical systems, Mr. Speaker. The Internet of Things. This is what is informing global business as we speak today. So, Mr. Speaker, as we make laws that speak to business, we've got to understand that our laws are playing catch-up. We've got to work a bit harder, Mr. Speaker, as the people who legislate for business in this country, so that we are not left too far behind, because as you realize, of all these four revolutions, Africa cannot lay claim to any of them, Mr. Speaker. That begs the question then, are we modeling our businesses on the right foundations, Mr. Speaker? So much so that even as this business laws amendment is as perfect as it looks, Mr. Speaker, we will need to look further afield to find the solutions that we need, Mr. Speaker. One of the solutions that I would propose, Mr. Speaker, is the fact that we can start out by looking on how to grow organic businesses from what has been naturally provided to us by God, Mr. Speaker. That if we took up just feeding our people as our core business, Mr. Speaker, we revolutionize our agriculture.
Mr. Speaker, agriculture on its own would be able to not only feed our entire population, but also employ all these young people who we say are jobless today, Mr. Speaker. So much so that even our Big Four agenda can end up being one big agenda, Mr. Speaker. That if we got our agriculture right, industrialization will happen with cottage industries. Our people will be healthier, eating more organic foods, Mr. Speaker. Our people will even have disposable income, which they can take for health insurance, Mr. Speaker. With disposable income out of agriculture, our people will be able to build their own good homes, Mr. Speaker. Dignify how they live, Mr. Speaker. So much so that we might not need to bite as we are biting bigger chunks that we can chew, Mr. Speaker. We need to also think, why are we trying to make it easier to do business? What is the mischief that exists today, Mr. Speaker? To my mind, I believe that the people who should be facilitators of business in this country are actually the biggest frustrators of business in this country, Mr. Speaker. Everyone is talking about young people, being innovative, being creative. But those who are ahead of these young people are actually intellectual property bandits, Mr. Speaker. A young Kenyan will invent something, will discover something, but before they know it, someone who has more economic might will grab that idea, run away with it, and not even pay for it, Mr. Speaker. Other hoops that we are making our people jump, Mr. Speaker, is corruption in a way that you can never imagine. A recent study, Mr. Speaker, is telling us that Kenya Power, which is actually going broke today, Mr. Speaker, is buying electricity at 23 shillings per kilowatt hour from independent producers of power, Mr. Speaker, while they can buy the same kilowatt hour for 50 cents, Mr. Speaker. Meaning that there is an individual making away with close to 22.5 shillings, Mr. Speaker, just exploiting Kenya Power, which in turn exploits its people and in turn frustrates business in this country. So, Mr. Speaker, even as we talk about ease of doing business, it is going to be good to deal with matters of a company sale. It's going to be important for us to look at the stamp duty issues. It's very important to relook the Companies Act. Very important for us to look at the Small Claims Act, Mr. Speaker, Small Claims Court Act. But we will need to look further afield, Mr. Speaker, for the solutions that we need. Let us start thinking about how we educate the next generation of entrepreneurs in this country. How can our young people take advantage of what appears to us organically and for free? How can we utilize the land that we have, the natural resources we have, the wind that we have, the sun that we have? Because if we do not educate the next generation to think like this, Mr. Speaker, they will find themselves in the same rat race that we find ourselves, of young people overladen with degrees after degrees looking for work, while we could have taught them to be critical thinkers and creators of wealth, Mr. Speaker. Today, every young person is looking to get employed after school, Mr. Speaker. So we need to go back to the basics, Mr. Speaker, and ask ourselves, if the world today is providing for us in the cyber and physical space, Mr. Speaker, how can we take advantage of the internet of doing things, Mr. Speaker, today, so that we can make our countries prosper from what is organically ours? So much so that we change our mind from thinking about an international investor who will come to Kenya to invest in this country. As it is, that international investor, we are already frustrating, Mr. Speaker. Any individual will tell you that if they land in Kenya today and they started trying to register a company, someone who has gone to Uganda or Rwanda will have done that maybe 3 or 4 weeks before the Kenyan one is able to do anything. But I believe, Mr. Speaker, that our solutions will not be about us looking to the west or looking to the east. It is about looking internally, Mr. Speaker. And our solutions can be found out of our very natural resources that are availed to us, Mr. Speaker. And the biggest of them all is our people.
is our population. If we prepared them for the times of today and the future, I believe then we can make Kenya leapfrog to the front of the pile so that we do not have to reinvent the wheel by going through the first revolution, second revolution, third revolution to get to the fourth one. We can leapfrog to the front as a country, Mr. Speaker, and we will be able to build the Kenyan that we always wanted or dreamt about. Mr. Speaker, I do support the Business Laws Amendment Bill, and I do congratulate the Leader of Majority for introducing this to the House. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honorable KJ, and that is the closest to a philosophy about the traction of this country should take that I can buy into. You have spoken so well that we need to go back to the basics. We need to use what is available. We need to, first of all, just feed ourselves. And if we can feed ourselves, we can take out our food and take it out there. You have spoken well. May God bless you. Leader of Majority, that was the last person who was speaking on this. You may now reply.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I wish to state that perhaps this is one of the most interesting sessions that, having listened to about every contributor, the passion with which people have prosecuted the matters, I was actually touched, especially when you listen to the last group of young contributors who you know, from Honorable Didi Nyoro, KJ, the Kwenya, and you know, it's not forget Mushangi and the others. It's the passion with which they've actually talked about what we need to do on the business law reforms. Tells they have an interest in business, and some of them are actually established business people in the past. So they're actually talking from where, you know, is the wearer knowing where the shoe pinches and where it hurts. So I want to thank members for their contribution on this, and it's also an issue that I'm passionate about. In 2007, when I was at the Treasury, I did bring in a review of about 1,000 laws that were supposed to be revised, 1,370 to be exact, that was sitting in the books and as a barrier to doing business. And so and I think at that point is when we started winning accolades within the international world that Kenya is doing something on ease of doing business. So the journey continues, and I want to assure members that even the few that are still a problem, they continue being looked into, and hopefully this is not the last time we're bringing some business laws amendment. We will also be looking at which others still need to come up. The private sector is also very active, and I want to also state that we have a continuous engagement between the Kenya Private Sector Association with the committee chairs, so that we identify a number of those issues and they bring them on board. So it's work in progress, and I want to really say I'm actually very touched that members are so passionate on this matter, and hence that we'll be able to give Kenyan people a law, you know, first read published in December, and hopefully by next week we should be able to have it out of the way, and start creating that appetite for more reviews on the business laws. So with those few remarks, Honorable Speaker, again, thanks the committees for doing what they did, and JLAC for coordinating this even within when they were still being harassed on BBI, but they still had time to look at this. So I want to thank members and committees, and with those, I beg to reply.
Congratulations, Leader of Majority. That is a job well done. And I want to thank all the members who've been patient enough to make their contributions to this. I've had very good contributions, and I hope that they will take those contributions further so that you can develop them into something that will be useful to our country. Honorable members, I will not make the next directions on this. I'll direct that the next steps for the question to be put to be undertaken when the matter will be set down for consideration on the order paper. But for now, honorable members, the time being 9 p.m., this House stands adjourned until Thursday, 25th March 2021 at 10 a.m.